Hello everyone and welcome back to a brand new Starfield video. Today we're discussing the Starfield Direct that is happening on June 11th. The features that we're gonna be discussing are mostly already confirmed, so no wild speculations here. And we're gonna be ranking these features in this beautiful chart over here, with the likelihood for them to appear in the Starfield Direct ranging from 100% all the way down to 0%. First up in the 100% category, they're gonna be announcing the pre-order. Obviously, if Starfield is gonna be releasing in the next couple of months, the pre-order needs to be available. And to tag along with the pre-order is gonna be the Collector's Edition. If we look at Bethesda's history, they've always done a Collector's Edition for their games. And I mean, it makes sense, why wouldn't they? It's one of the most anticipated games in a long time, so they gotta capitalize on that. These three were kind of the freebies, but I also wanna place one specific gameplay mechanic in the 100%. It is melee weapons. So yeah, it is actually strange that we haven't seen it before, but then it must show up in this Starfield showcase. Then we're gonna go one level down to the things that are still highly likely, but not 100% certain. The first one in this category is gonna be companions. Companions have been a staple in Bethesda games, and we only really have seen Vasco, your robot. But since there are perks and actual traits built around companions, it must also be a pretty big part of Starfield. Especially I would like to see how these companions fare in combat, because we haven't seen that at all. Next up is crime and consequences. All we know about crime in Starfield is that there are bounties, and you can actually have bounties with the different factions or the different cities. And we have also seen one example of the lockpicking minigame. But there are obviously many more features to a Bethesda crime system, like pickpocketing, trespassing, stealing, and then the consequences, like how will the guards react?
Disrespect the law and you disrespect me.
And will there be some type of jail system, like in Skyrim? The last thing in the 80% category is New Atlantis. This is gonna be the big main city of Starfield. And as Bethesda has said, it is actually the biggest city they have ever created in one of their games. And we really haven't seen much of it. We have seen a couple shots from the outside and a little bit in the Constellation headquarters. But if you really think of it, we haven't seen many interiors. Something like shops or NPC houses. We haven't really seen those. So I actually think a large part of this showcase will be taking place in New Atlantis. Then we go down once more. These options are definitely a possibility, but probably not all of them will show up. First on the list is player homes. We know player homes are a thing separate from the outpost building. You might actually be able to also live and sleep in your outpost, but those are gonna be a separate thing. We know player homes will be a thing thanks to this perk, Dream Home, which is a fully customizable home on a peaceful planet. I personally was always a big fan of player homes ever since Skyrim came out, so I hope they have a large amount of different options. At least you would expect there to be a player home in New Atlantis, Neon, and Aquila City. And maybe a couple more scattered on some quieter locations. Or what would also be cool is maybe on a space station. Speaking of space, I'm wondering if we will see more things to do in space. Currently we've seen smuggling, dogfighting, and some type of space station. Besides these things, space feels really barren at the moment. Obviously in real life space is really empty. But for a video game I feel like we need to see a couple more points of interest or random encounters. What would be even better if Bethesda shows us some more uncut gameplay, so we get a better feel for the gameplay loop involving space travel. And last in the 60% category is perks, and especially the non-combat perks, because we have already seen a good few of the combat perks. Well, the thing that makes it important to know more about perks is that we can actually get a better idea of the different builds that are possible in the game. For now, we have seen the combat perks and you can see a lot of the different weapon types, like automatic rifles, pistols, snipers, all those kind of weapons you also saw in Fallout. But since there are also two perk categories called Science and Tech that we basically don't know much about, they will for sure have some perks related to researching, outpost building and shipbuilding, but I also hope they show us some perks that help with your combat abilities. Then moving down to the more unlikely things in my opinion. In the 80% category we had New Atlantis, and I actually put all other major cities in the 40% category. Even though a lot of people are excited to know more about these, especially Neon seems to be popular, I actually see a good chance that Bethesda will leave these out of the showcase. Just because I think they actually don't want to spoil all of their major locations. And the one that kind of ties into that is the factions. For the same like spoilery reasons, I don't think they will be showing much more of their factions, maybe with an exception of the United Colonies, because we practically know zero about them, except for that they've been in a war with the 3-star collective. And I think Bethesda just wants to show us the general vibe of the factions and leave the rest to be discovered. The last feature I got in this category is your crew. And while it would actually be pretty interesting to learn more about that, the reason why I got it so low is because maybe the crew system isn't actually that in depth to make it worth having some type of section in the showcase for. I think it's just a number. When you actually travel through the world and meet different people, you might collect companions or just other random workers with less personality, and they just act as a number that works on your ship. But maybe I'm wrong on that and we'll actually get a look at a more in-depth crew system, but only time will tell. And for the second to last category, the 20%, there's only one thing in it: the story. To me, it seems highly unlikely that we'll actually get more info about the story in this upcoming showcase, just because we already know the basic premise of the story. You discover this like ancient, maybe alien artifact, and when you touch it you get some type of vision. And some other NPCs you spoke through also know about these visions. And basically your job together with Constellation is to figure out what's up with them. I think this is enough to set up the main story. I don't think we need much else. Like this cutscene with you discovering the artifact, touching it and getting the vision. That is basically the same as in Bethesda's last 2 big games. In Skyrim it was Alduin showing up and actually the dragons returning as a whole. And for Fallout 4 it was the bombs dropping and then your son getting kidnapped. That's basically all you need to know to set up the main story, and I feel like we have already got that. And if Bethesda actually gave more information and went in more detail in the showcase, I feel like it would just take away from the player discovering those things themselves. Last but not least, for the absolute bottom of the barrel, the 0%, we have PlayStation. It doesn't matter how much people keep crying on Twitter, I'm sorry to inform you, it won't happen. Then the very last thing on the list is co-op. Even though I would really like to be able to play through this whole experience with 1 or 2 friends, co-op is sadly just not gonna happen. And that will cover it. Let me know what you would like to see in the Starfield showcase, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to stay updated on everything Starfield. And then I'll see you guys at the next one.